So, welcome to FMBug meeting number 73-ish. And we're concentrating on barcode scanning this week, this month. And we're going to have a slightly different format in as much as Dom and Gary and Honza are going to share their experiences of barcode scanning. And hopefully everyone else will be able to pitch in at the end of each little conversation. We've got about 3 conversations based on the topic. And then if I manage to get it together in time, we're going to have a demo. If not, I shall just have to demo. Not quite what I wanted, but something it'll do. And then we could have an open discussion based on barcode scanning. But before all of that, we have the excitement of Gary catching us up with the news and talking a little bit about measures to take when you're to deal with servers crashing. Health and safety information I don't need to do because we're online.
Absolutely. If something's on fire behind someone, shout out and let them know so they know to turn around because they're too busy looking at the screen. But apart from that, it's fine. Yeah. I will kick off with the news. I can crack on with that. The only thing I will say is if you do want to talk, if you don't mind showing yourself and turn your camera on, it just helps me with the video editing because it just means I get a picture of a person talking instead of just not knowing who's talking at the time. So it just helps me out a little bit. But if you're shy and you don't want to put your camera on, that's fine as well. So right, I will kick off with the news. Let me share my screen. And hopefully this will work. Fingers crossed. So hopefully you can all see that screen. That's good. The news, as always, the news is wonderfully prepared by my team that work with me on FileMaker stuff. So it's mainly Penny and Ben that do all this, but I curate it of what they send me. So there's a few things this time. I haven't done the news for a couple of sessions now, so there's a few things in there that may be old. I do apologise, but this is stuff that I've found over the last few sessions that I've missed. And I don't know if you did any news, Joel. Maybe not. I don't know. You're on mute, mate. Okay. No news. Fair enough. Fine. Okay. So FileMaker 2023 came out, version 20.3. I've summarized the key things from Clarice about what those features were in there. And obviously, I always find it funny when they just say run FileMaker in latest OS. Well, hopefully that's the point of the patch update, so it's more compatible. That's fair enough. And the others in there are fine. The one I thought was just hilarious is FileMaker solutions run faster in the middle. Now, I tried to find online what they meant by faster, bearing in mind that's a thing close to my heart that I would like FileMaker to run quicker, better and more reliable in some instances. But they just put runs faster. So I don't know if anyone's had any practical experience they'd want to feed back and tell me whether that's the case. And then there's some other areas which I will cover in the next slide. So the most important one, the simplified administration of FileMaker and HTTPS tunneling. So this is something that FileMaker has been pushing for several versions now, is to move into a view of being able to get the clients communicating via FileMaker over, basically properly over 443 as opposed to 5003 and so forth. So they've done this now. You can do it, and it's compatible. You go into the admin, you turn this on, and it just means the entire end-to-end is running across port 443. So it's where I want to go. I'm not there yet. I'm miles behind most people on servers, and I'm a late adopter. But if you're worried about security and worried about your access to your databases, not that 5003 is a problem, but it just means it all runs across one port as opposed to having other ports open on your firewall. So it just makes life a bit more streamlined and simple.
Hey, Gary, can I ask a question about that diagram?
Yes.
I'd always thought that if you're running a primary and secondary server, the FM data API ran off the primary server, but that diagram suggests that I've been mistaken. Does anyone know for sure about that? Well, I mean, I assume that if FileMaker has given us this diagram, they're correct, but...
What, the API, you're saying? The API does run off the primary.
Well, according to that diagram, the FM data API process is running off secondary as
It
well.
runs off both.
It runs
Yeah,
off both.
it can run off both. It can run off both. It can run off multiple now. I think you can have, I don't know what it is in the spec now. It's like 4 or 5 servers you can have in the stack.
Okay.
So I don't know whether it goes across all of them and spreads the load, but now it does it securely.
Yeah, from the Nginx stuff, the Nginx configuration that they were talking about, I think that they were basically passing through the data API to the primary server. And I didn't actually try running off the secondary. So I should do that as an experiment.
Have a look, yeah. In theory,
Yeah.
it should do, I would have said. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
What actually runs on the secondary server is that the web publishing engine. So anything that goes through web publishing engine can go through the secondary machine, but whatever goes directly bypassing the web publishing engine needs to go to the primary.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
the other thing about tunneling, Gary, is you can't just turn it on and off, because you have to restart. You have to restart the client and the server for it to work. And once you've turned it on the server, if there's a file that somebody needs and they haven't got tunneling on, they won't be able to connect to it.
Are you saying that you turn tunneling? I know you turn it on the server, but I didn't think you turned it on the client.
Yes, you have to turn it on both ends.
Oh, that's something I learned. So thank you for that, John. So I'm going to have to go through it. If I've got 100 users out there that are all using FileMaker, which I do, if I turn this on, I've got to update the configs of every single user's machine to turn tunneling on.
Correct.
Genius. Okay, that's going to cause me a bit of an issue, but that's fine. I'll have a look at that and see what we can do.
And it's in the preferences, so you can't necessarily ask users to do it.
Most preferences users can do.
I'm just saying it's something you want to discourage so that users don't.
It's not locked. My point is, it's not locked, John. It's not secured in a way that it's locked. Right? Okay, fine, fair enough. I'm fine with that. Yeah, it could cause a problem if the user then knows it's there and they turn things on and off. So I get your concern. So, that's worrying that they turn it on. There should be an option that I would have said is when it will be a nice feature that you could have that as a setting that when you connect to the server, if tunneling was on, the client then defaulted to tunneling. But I suppose you've already done the connection at that point to see the server to get the files. So I don't know. It's new. It's the way they were going for a long time. We could put everything over 443. I think it's much better because it's config issues I don't have to do on the firewall anymore. So if we get everyone onto this, it will be much beneficial for everybody, certainly if you're working in a larger deployment. So, or certainly a multi-site VPN deployment, which is what we have. So we have to make sure everything's going across the right ports. Another one was working with layout calculations. It's been there for a little while now. Everyone's spoken about it, but there were 2 articles. FMHacks had a good article, so did Claris. They've got their own pages. I put the URLs down there. Obviously, this is being recorded. You can come back and look at these anyhow. But as always, as the meeting goes on, I'll post in the chat all the URLs from my sessions. But both are worth a read. The FMHacks has got 2 articles. I've linked to the second article, but there's a link to their first article within that. So you can get the whole feed. It's quite interesting how they go through some of the do's and don'ts and things and pitfalls of how the layout calculations can be used. There's certain parameters you can put on the layout calculations to format the results of those layout calculations as well. There's certain characters you can put in to format a date of a certain type when you're doing that within there. So I thought it was quite an interesting read. Benefits of doing this, obviously, it's less load on you don't need any fields anymore, you don't need any buttons, you don't need anything. So you can literally put straight onto a layout a piece of content that's pulling from data and fields and records that you're on. It's a more efficient way of doing something if you want a layout heading that's more customized to the data that you're actually in. So it's worth looking at. The other one was the famous Sonoma that seems to be breaking everything at the moment. This is an article that gives you all the things that seem to be wrong with FileMaker and Sonoma. Now, I'm still running 19, and I have to say Sonoma works fine, providing I've not had one issue with Sonoma under that. I'm still running 19. I've got 19 servers as well. Providing you turn Stage Manager off. if you leave Stage Manager on, it just breaks everything. It's a feature that Apple have put in. I know the adoption rate for Stage Manager online from Apple is almost zero. Hardly anyone's using it. So I wouldn't mind saying, I wouldn't mind betting they'll deprecate that out of the OS at some point, because it's causing more problems than it's solving. So do have a look at that. The one interesting thought, I don't know the reason why, and I'm sure the wonderful people here will know, the point of the EPS not being rendered as an image now in a container field. Did they lose, Apple Claris lose the license to render the EPS, or why did they stop this? Because they've had that for years and now they've stopped it. So now it's just a file. I don't know, but do bear that in mind if you've got any.
It's an Apple thing, Gary.
Yeah,
Not a Claris thing.
they deprecated the core graphics PostScript converter in macOS.
Right.
So I also deprecated my function, the plugin for that.
I bet that made you really happy, Christian.
Yeah, well, it's a simple thing. If the operation system tells me that it will go away someday, I will have to tell my plugin users that it will go away someday. But for now, you can still use it.
Good. Okay. Fair enough. I thought there's a weird one all of a sudden, because it was just weird. It's been there for so many years that, but I knew there was some underlying reason, whether it's a license or something that they've taken away. So that's fair enough. So, as I say, the article's worthwhile looking at because there are some known issues that are still there, but it's mainly around Stage Manager being enabled. There's a few other nuances that are around there, but there's what I would see as normal upgrades to a latest OS. There's 2 or 3 things that are a problem, but as soon as you turn Stage Manager off, half your problems go away. So, and it's really simple to turn Stage Manager off. A couple of clicks in the OS and you've cleared it. So if you are upgrading or you're buying a new Mac that only comes with Sonoma, which is a classic Apple way, do bear that in mind. All right, so I would turn Stage Manager off. No point having it on. Garbage collection. Now, this has come up with an article that Soliant did, and I was looking through this to see what the benefits are of this. This is in the later version of the OS, and it's something that what they've mentioned, Soliant, they've run a couple of tests on some of their servers. I don't know whether they're massively pushing WebDirect applications to simulate this, but they're advising you clear the garbage collection once a day for your server. Now, I don't know whether or not that's the right thing or wrong thing to do. I'm not on that version of the OS, so I can't really comment. So, but reading about the article and getting under the hood of it, I realized there's some do's and don'ts. The solution to this is, yes, you can clear the garbage collection by clicking in the admin console and say empty garbage collection, and it will do that for you. That's a bit cumbersome if you've got multiple servers and you should do it daily. That's a lot of work for someone to do. So they said, oh, run the Claris automation. Well, then they found out the Claris automation didn't actually work if you've installed Java with using the Java home directories. So it could fail. So then they came up with various other workarounds and fixes and so forth. But if you are suffering from memory leakage on your servers and it's due to this, then it's a worthwhile read because they tell you how to get around it, what to do. So Dom, I know you've had crashes on your server, mate, but if your server starts running out of memory, have a look. I don't know if you're using lots of WebDirect, but certainly have a look there first. It's not a bad one to look at. From my research I've seen is if you restart your server, it seems to do the collection dump on the reboot anyhow. So so you could get around the fact of if you restart your servers every so often, then that gets around it doing it anyhow. But if you're at the point you need to do it every day, you need to look at one of these fixes as a workaround. So if anyone's got questions, please say. So, if not, fine. Good. Obviously, the other one is Claris Engage is coming. It's here. It's not far away. When I took the snapshot a couple of hours ago, we're 28 days, 23 hours away. It's happening. I don't know who's going. Unfortunately, I will not be this year. I won't be able to make it. But I've seen Claris are starting to put adverts out and bits and pieces and invites from developers of the Claris team that are posting videos out saying it's looking forward to getting back to meeting everyone. I know a few people that are going, but unfortunately I won't be going. But just to remind you, it's on. I would have thought you would have to have bought your tickets way before now if you wanted to go, because I know there were limited supply already. So. And final thing is more discussions will always happen at the virtual bar. That will happen after all the key sessions. And yeah, so that's the news. I know I'm on for the next bit as well. So my little session I wanted to, well, it's not really a session, it's just more of a conversation. So I'm quite happy to go through this. I know server crashing has been a couple of people's Achilles heel. And we have been going through, most people know our setup. We've got 4 servers, probably 150 solutions running across those servers, millions and millions and millions of records in there, and probably 100 odd to 120 odd users that are in our systems constantly. So for us, uptime stability is key. Certainly for any of those businesses that are running a 24/7 operation, it's even more so. We're lucky that we have a 4 or 5 hour window where we can do maintenance most evenings. Yes, that's me working most mornings at about 1 till 5 in the morning, but that's the way it goes. But we had a major server crash about a month and a half ago that completely shut down 2 of our servers and just abandoned every single open file and just crashed. Couldn't work out why. We don't often have crashes. Now, when that happens, we have a set regime of what we do. So we go through a set process of recovery. We invariably never use a recovered file. We'll go for a previous backup if we can. Unfortunately, at this time, it crashed right at the end of the day. The last progressive I had was about 10 minutes beforehand, and they just run a massive billing run for our dispatch. So the outcome of that was around about 1,500 to 2,000 orders had just gone through a billing run in that 10-minute window when it crashed. So for me to roll back was almost impossible, not without an awful lot of work. Thankfully, the one thing I wanted to add is in the past when we've done this, we have never used a recovered file because of that. We don't want a recovered file in our system. We always want a stable, good release file. Nothing's gone through recovery. Nothing to say that FileMaker recovery is bad, but for 20 odd years I've been using FileMaker. I've never been hurt by having this methodology. We went through about 2 hours of consultation trying to work out what to do. And in the end, we decided, right, let's just open the files, see what happens with it. We checked all the backups, went through all that rigmarole. Thankfully, it was relatively late at night, so the teams were about to finish. So they only lost a couple of hours of actual work while we were doing this work. But we decided to open the file, and it's one of our largest files, lots of records in it. And most times when that opens, it always corrupts. This time it opened, scanned, checked, and just worked perfectly. Now, the reason for this, and I know this is something I know you've gone through, Dom, over the last year, and I have done a couple of sessions on this, we have been systematically going through these legacy systems that we have and cleaning them up, clearing out all the trash, all the rubbish, making sure we simplify the solutions as much as possible. And most of them we barely have a summary field anymore. We barely have any calculations anymore. And I know it seems harsh that FileMaker give you these tools, but because of that, I'm a strong believer that's the reason why that file recovered, because it shouldn't have recovered. It's never recovered in the past. So we've massively simplified the solution, and it made a huge difference to us getting back up and running, because it was an awful situation at that time of the amount of data we could have lost. So it's just food for thought, really. It's really sparked our interest of those bigger solutions. We got a constant piece of development, constant piece of reworking our systems to then streamline them and make them simpler. It just means your data is then going to flow a lot easier, and you can get your systems up and running quicker. But it's proof to the work. It's worth doing. So if you've got any clients out there, certainly if you've got clients out there that keep on telling you we are not going to spend the time to clean the data up, I think as developers we've got to push that a bit more. It's the one area we need to focus on a bit more and get the clients or the companies to then put the time in to do this work, because it makes life work so much easier when there isn't a problem that will occur. So that was the thing I wanted to share with everyone, just to let them know it's worth spending the time getting that done.
Well, yeah, a couple of things from my point of view. We've been doing a lot of recoveries from crashes recently. It looks like we've stabilised that. That's no longer happening.
Good.
And we are going through the process of designing out any calculations that we cannot store. And we are also going to reduce to the absolute bare minimum any summary fields. And we're going to be using the execute SQL command to replace some of those calculations in summary fields.
Yeah.
I'd also say that we've done a lot of recovery on files, and what I've found, or what I've noticed, is that FM Pro 20, if you rebuild the index as part of the recovery process, you get a dialog box at the end of that process that tells you that the file is safe to use. If you don't rebuild the indexes, it tells you that the file shouldn't be used.
Okay. Which sort of makes sense, because if there's corruption in the index, the only way you can say you've recovered the file fully is fully recover it. So rebuild the entire structure, which to me makes sense. But
with 19, it didn't matter what you did, it would never tell you that the file was safe to use. Yeah.
So obviously that's a back end part of what Claris have done. They've realised it's beneficial to then recover the indexes as well. The only concern is on the large systems that will take days sometimes.
Yes, indeed.
But this comes down to what I was saying before. Simplifying the build will then speed that process up. Having a table, which we've still got, I have to say, we're nowhere near there yet. I've got a table with 900 to nearly 1,000 fields in a table, which you'll probably all suck some air out of the room that you're in because of that. But if you simplify that, it's not so bad, because not all of those fields are on layouts. Not all of those fields are then visible for people to index them. So if they're not searching on them, they're not going to get indexed. So it's not as bad as it initially looks when you do that. But it's worthwhile knowing that, Dom. So in the later versions, they're advising you to say you have to rebuild the index for that file to be safe. Fair enough. Anyone else had issues with crashes and bits and pieces where it's corrupted files and found some workarounds or solutions? One of the things we're doing now is a speed recovery for us, because we run in VMware, is we're trying to find a way of snapshotting that more regularly, using VMware to snapshot the solution. And I know I've read various articles that Wim did with how to pause the database, snapshot it, unpause it, snapshot it. They had a solution where they were doing that every couple of seconds. But even if I snapshot my server, because of the size of the server, even with VMware, it's taking probably around about 20 to 30 seconds as a worst case scenario to snapshot that server. So I've got to be mindful about how often I do that, and you've got to work out what your loss is, what an acceptable loss is.
Well, again, we're kind of going down that same route. We've got a couple of NAS boxes on site now, and we're looking at actually hosting the databases on those boxes, not on the FileMaker server, in order to avail ourselves of some snapshotting and backup technology that is a non-FileMaker backup.
I think that, Tony, you've got a question, mate. Go on.
A little bit of maybe more comments than questions, but either way, so agree with most everything. I think I've been pretty lucky in terms of not seeing crashes, although they do concern me, because it's like, how do you fix them? Prevention. Sorry. The archiving transaction files. Gary, you spoke about, big files and how long they take to recover or rebuild index, or pretty much, or backup, or everything. One of the big systems that I worked on until the company closed was they had big transaction files, like invoices, invoice line items. I call them transaction files. Invoices start, they end, they're done. And so they were archiving, and I think that helped them a lot. Definitely the, cleaning up in any file that I care about, which is all of them, whenever possible, I'll try and get a budget to remove as much cruft as possible. A, it lightens the footprint, and B, I've never had to rebuild a file in a production system for anyone else other than me. I had one file, that's my total death count. But removing as much cruft does, and maybe this is a selling point to the customer, does position everybody to be able to rebuild that which is used as opposed to that which is cruft. So I always feel good when I remove unused things, because it's like, this is what I'd have to rebuild. Anyway, that's just a couple thoughts. That's all I got for now.
Cool. I think with, as I was saying, with the file complexity, that's one avenue. When you're talking about redundancy and backing up your solutions, we put the difference being in our VM infrastructure, we originally had a 1 gig backbone in our VM stack, and we all run across iSCSI. So we've got RAIDs that are running in there. They're all SSDs, they're all fine, and they're all quick. But we put a 10 gig backbone in about 9 months ago, and that revolutionized backups. I mean, we can back up the whole database solution, everything using FileMaker system in a matter of not seconds, but it's tens of seconds, but it's less than a minute. So we could run a FileMaker backup pretty much. If we set the server to every 5 minutes, it can run that. But the downside with using the FileMaker, it will pause and stun the database for a period of time. So as a consequence of that then affects live users. So you've got to be careful when you do it. So we run our daily backup overnight as our main full backup, and we run progressives every 5 minutes. We're running progressives. So that, in theory, the progressives will give you that backup recovery of 5 minutes ago. Now you've got to think about, as Tony said, your transactions. If you're only pushing through 10 transactions every 5 minutes, but it's a key system to your company, that doesn't matter. Can you afford to lose those 10 transactions? Can you rebuild them? You can do logging, you can do some various aspects of that to then help you recover. But if you're putting through 5,000 transactions every 5 minutes, you've got a bigger problem. And that is the point where you need a system that is just robust. And as a consequence of that, you just need something that's reliable and can recover itself. Now, FileMaker with the latest versions does transactions. You can do transactions commits. If it's an important table, one of the things we're looking at is double commit on a record. So we write it to 2 places at times. Now, I've got multiple servers. If I write to another place on another server, if that server crashes, I've got the log from another one. So as a consequence, that's the logic I would approach. So if you can do the development on that and get that working, you've got your transaction file on another location on another server, and you can rebuild from there. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of admin.
Hey, Gary, apologies. I forgot 2 points that might be of use. In the big system that I worked on that was archiving, one of the other additional things to that is lock those files. If there are archives in some way, shape, or form on the OS level, or maybe with privilege sets, lock them because they're archives. That way, if they do, if the server crashes, that's one less big file that doesn't have to run the recovery process. And then final, so just, lock them. And because I just learned from experience, I wasn't running the server, but I would see they would have a crash, and their biggest files were the archive files. And when the server would crash, they'd have to watch those archive files. And that's, no reason for that. I mean, those are archive files. Those should be like backed up once at the point of archiving. And then hopefully the final point, we have, and I'll say it, I know we're being recorded, we have actually, had crashes where we went live with the files that were crashed, right? It's a customer decision in terms of how they want to approach. Do they want to pull from the backups and import and, do things according to some people's opinion, or do they want to go with the files that just crashed? And we've done many times, gone with the live files more often than not. Haven't had any problems. What we do as a bit of a insurance policy is, while we're not going to the golden master, we will pull it out of the backup flow, usually by zipping it, so that if the files that we're going forward with, as you mentioned in your story at top of the conversation, if the files that we're going forward with turn out to be corrupted, well, we pulled the golden master, and then we can always, put them back together. So that's our insurance policy, and that's what I got for now.
Yeah, I agree with both those comments, Tony. We have an archive file for our online ordering, exactly that methodology. So we have a replica of the file. So we basically take a clone of the file every so often, and then we do an import of that archive into the new clone. And the reason why we do that, because if the development goes live and then we're adding fields to the master core record, the teams have to know to add to the archive the same field creations. Otherwise, you can't bring the information back. So we go and add 10 fields for some function in the live production file. Well, the archive needs those fields because next time you archive, you won't map them otherwise. So you've got to have that methodology of understanding when you archive. Secondly, what we also do is we dump the data before we archive out in just a merge file of the whole table. So if it's the main transaction table that we want to back up, we dump that out and we put that into just a text file. We have a vault that we store, and it's secure. So therefore, I've got the transactional records. We encrypt that file as well, so it's safe, because if there's customer data in it, it's then encrypted, and we put it in a place. So we've got the raw text file before we archive as well. So we double handle that data and we store it twice. But it's that point of, if you have to restore the archive, if you need it, you've got the data in an easy text form that you can import in, or you've got the original archive that you can bring transactions back if you want to. So there's both sides on that. It's just, as I say, it's food for thought. If you're not crashing the bits and pieces, good luck to you. When it happens to you and then you're sitting there pulling your hair out, you don't ever want to be in that situation. You go, how do I recover? What do I do? And I think that's the important thing. We need to start thinking more about how we keep these systems up and running. FarmMaker do a cracking job of keeping that server as reliable as they can. I've been using FarmMaker 25 years in a production environment. I wouldn't be using it that much if I wasn't pro the platform and the software. It's a cracking piece of software, but with current technology nowadays, I think there's more we can do with it. And I think FarmMaker's a little bit behind the curve of being able to utilize the technology that's out there. It falls on us as developers to come and do these workarounds and use this technology. And I think the VM sort of scenario and snapshotting is pretty much what Claris are supposedly doing with their cloud offering anyhow. So they've got the technology behind that to do that. We've just got, if you want to do on-prem, you've got to then look at doing that yourself, but you've got to work it out. You've got to do the back-end infrastructure. You've got to make sure that's reliable. But it's something we need to think about and keep thinking about, because it'll bite you once. I know Dom has had the experience. So.
That's great, Gary. I think we're in danger of drifting off topic, and
no, that's fine.
It's fascinating stuff, and we can carry on later with it. That's for sure. Yeah. In the virtual bar. Shall we head off into that first discussion,
sure.
Which is barcode scanning? Why? It's over to you, Honza and Dom and Gary. Just to give some background, Gary's got a massive, great operation there. He's sending out. Well, I don't need to tell you anything about Gary. He can introduce himself if you don't know him already. Dom is operating in a warehouse with a foods warehouse, which is sending out huge amounts of stock, so big amounts of picking every day. And Honza knows everything, I think. So I'll let you three just get into the chat together about it, and we'll have a little discussion at the end of it, so people can ask.
I'll lead off with one quick thing. It doesn't matter whether you've got 10,000 products, 100,000 products, or one product. The reason why we scan is for accuracy. That's it. Users make mistakes. Machines don't make mistakes. So that's the reason why we do it. We make sure that the user is scanning that item. And in our scenario, we could have 10 comics that look exactly the same cover, but they've just been colored or inked by a different designer, artist, and so forth. And to the human eye, you barely even notice there was a difference, but it's got different barcode. That gives it a different product ID. That gives it a different SKU number. That gives it a different tracking within the system. You would not be able to do some of these things. You would not be able to do easily. And I say that from experience, because one of the things that we got is an art comic, which is a blank cover comic. It's a white cover, nothing on it. It's for you to take to the artist, and then they draw on it, and then you have your unique version. How the hell, when you look at 5 white covers, do you know from the front of it what it is? Until you open it, it's got different comic inside. You have no idea. It's just a barcode on the bottom right-hand corner. That's it. So for us, we scan every item in the warehouse, out the warehouse, in the customer's box. So if you come and order that white cover one of a Batman comic, there could be 3 that month. They all look the same. All got Batman at the top of it. You would then know that issue, there is an issue number on the inside cover, and it tells you what issue it is, but on the outside, you wouldn't know. But the barcode is on the outside bottom right-hand corner. So for that purpose, we have to scan it to know it's accurate. So that's one of the things I lead with. It's an accuracy thing for us. It's to make sure we can track an item from start to finish and the user doesn't get it wrong. That's why we do it.
I think you have similar issues, David.
Well, we certainly do. We have a lot of very similar products. And what's more, the product description that a collator might see on a picking list might not match exactly the product description on the case. So we relatively recently introduced scanning. What stopped us introducing scanning previously was the fact that most Bluetooth scanners would suppress the keyboard, and we use iPads to scan. So it was a bit of a faff getting a user to disconnect the scanner to allow the keyboard to come up so they could do an iMessage or something else and then go back to scanning. But I think it was Socket Mobile perhaps that pioneered the ability to bring your keyboard up or down as and when you wanted it while still having your Bluetooth scanner connected. So that made a big difference to us. That made it possible for us to actually carry on using the iPads we have to scan with. To come back to Gary's point, scanning de-skills collating. When you use it in a collating scenario, it de-skills collating because you can answer that question, is that the right product, straight away. You scan it and it tells you, yes, that's the right product or it isn't. Whereas previously, our collators would have to have quite a lot of product knowledge to be able to just pick the right product from a pocket picking list, looking at the product on the shelf. Now, of course, that doesn't stop them scanning something on the shelf and then picking up the thing next to it. Does happen, particularly if there's a big stack of products and they go, well, I don't want to spend my time pulling this one off, I'm going to pick this one off. It doesn't stop them picking up several things in one go, having a chat with someone and leaving those products on the shelf. But it has decreased our returns, our charge not delivered very significantly. That increases customer satisfaction, decreases the amount of customer contacts we have to have, which helps tremendously.
Right. Honza,
Yeah, I would have two comments, and actually I have two reasons for using barcode scanning. One is accuracy, but I have one comment to what Gary said. Machines do make mistakes because machines are made by people, and people make mistakes while making machines. And one great example is FileMaker Go barcode scanning feature. I'm not sure who that was, but at one conference, I talked to a person who said, well, we had issue with scanning 5,000 items with a FileMaker Go. And out of those 5,000 items, we got 9 bad scans. I mean, not errors, but wrong numbers being returned by the scanning feature. So it's important, even with barcode scanning, to be careful about what type of barcode you choose and what barcode scanner you use, whether it's software or whether it's hardware scanner, and it all depends on situation. So, for instance, if you are scanning and you can check against the limited set of data, and if you have a number which is not part of that set of data, you can recognize that it's a bad scan, then it's much easier to make it accurate. But if you rely on what is scanned, you rather choose a good barcode format with some error correction or something like that, and also a good scanner that can reliably scan only what really it should scan. So that's on accuracy. The other one is obviously speed. You can, if you have a good scanner, you can scan items much faster than type them by hand. So for instance, for inventory counts, it's much faster to scan items than do it manually. Obviously, there are even faster methods, such as RFID, but for situations where RFID is not usable, barcode scanning can save a lot of time.
Yes, I have one more reason for scanning. We are in the food business. We have a manufacturing plant on site, and we pack organic product. Part of the requirement for using the Soil Association certification that we use is that we create an audit trail from the purchase of the bulk goods through to the packing down of those goods into retail packs, through to the sale of those goods to the customer. So this will edge into the next discussion about what type of barcode. But barcode scanning, in particular QR code scanning using QR codes, was the only way that we could see to create that audit trail without forcing our collators to stop what they're doing and manually enter batch information relating to our products to allow us to put a traceability reference on the customer's invoice, which could be traced back all the way through to the purchase of the bulk goods that went into that retail pack. Now, we have had some server problems recently, and our collators loved it when the server went down because they love collating to pieces of paper. Pen, piece of paper, picking list, nothing quicker, nothing more inaccurate.
I want to add a couple of things to what Honza said and what you said, Dom. Yeah, I agree. Machines will make mistakes, Honza. Yeah, bad programming gives you bad results. Bad data gives you even worse results. But from what we were doing, talking about your point of accuracy of picking stuff, making sure they pick the right item, as you were saying, Dom, and picking the right item up and so forth. It then comes down to, and we'll probably get onto this as other bits and pieces maybe, it then comes down to how you monitor that workflow for what you scan. If you go for an inventory pick and you scan the item once, sorry to say, you ain't scanning it enough. That's why you get errors. That will give you human errors totally. You need to track it through the whole moving process of your workflow until it leaves your workplace and you go, that's finished. That may mean the item gets scanned 5, 8, 10 times in that process. By doing that level of checking and throughout the process, you will then make sure you have no errors. So our pick rate's 99.9% in our warehouse, and I can track that. So you can know, I can go through the whole process until it hits that box to go in the customer's order. I will know who picked it, where they picked it from, what bay they picked it up from, where they made the mistake. An error report will go out, disciplinary will follow. I mean, it tracks the lot. It literally tracks all of it. So we know who picked up that item off the shelf incorrectly. We know where it was and so forth. So there are ways of doing that, but it depends whether you can put that time constraint on doing that. So you've really got to look at it in a business point of view and an efficiency point of view, whether or not you want to go to that level. But having it scan is definitely the way to go. As for knowing what to scan and so forth, that's on there. I think the only way you can, I think you have to get an adequate scanning device. Scanning on an iPad, on a phone, using the camera, no disrespect, forget it. It's just rubbish. It's fine for a convention if you've got odd people coming through and you're running an event with 10 people turning up. Use the camera on the back of the device, fair enough. You have to go for a dedicated hardware scanner to then get the speed. I agree with what you said. We've been using the socket scanners that pop the barcode keyboard up and down for years. If we didn't have that technology, it would be an absolute pain to operate because you want them to use that device not just for scanning, but to do multiple things. We have the power of FileMaker to do pretty much everything in FileMaker Desktop on an iPad. You can empower the user going around the warehouse and so forth to do all those functions. Great. If you lock it down to a scanner and the keyboard's in the way all the time, it's just a nightmare.
Yeah, a couple of things to add. 95% of our pick quantities are 1. So if we use scanning, if the pick quantity is 1 and the scanning is a match, we flag that line as picked. So that's a time saver. The collator doesn't have to interact with the iPad to press a button to say they picked that line. If the pick quantity is not 1, then we force a second interaction with the iPad. We want to force the collator to look at the iPad and acknowledge that the pick quantity is not 1. But we also track every single scan. We create a log file of exactly what they've done, what they've scanned, what buttons they've pressed throughout the scanning process. And we also codify our method of entry. So we say, all right, well, if you've scanned the outer barcode, we will assign a value to that. If you scan the inner barcode, we'll assign a value to that. If you've scanned a QR code, a different value, a GS1128, a different value. And if you have picked the line by hand, then again, we will codify that. And that allows us to analyze what has happened and to be a bit more proactive in ensuring that if a barcode or an item is continuing not scanning, we have the right barcode on the system. We know what they've scanned. It hasn't matched with our records, so perhaps our records are wrong. But quite often, the supplier's records are wrong. The number of suppliers who send us barcodes, lists of barcodes on Excel spreadsheets with leading zeros in a cell formatted as a number, it's not insignificant. And consequently, we don't just take the raw string of data that we've taken from the scanner and try and match that to a value we hold on our databases. We will do some manipulation with that data. We will say, all right, well, this isn't a match, but what if I take away a leading zero? Is it a match then?
Yep.
And that is to, again, that when we would track that. If we have to do that to get a match, we report on the fact that we've had to do that to get a match, because we don't want to tie the collator up with reporting back that this didn't scan. We want to know. And quite often, an item doesn't scan because the supplier has simply omitted a leading zero or have added an extra zero that they haven't informed us about. So we don't just take the straight text or the data string that we receive from the scanner. We will do a bit of manipulation on that.
We do the same. We've got some products that have 5 barcodes on the product. Which one do you scan? So we go down the route of loading all 5 against that product ID, so it doesn't matter which one they scan. We have the point now, I don't know if you know that a comic or a book, right? Most people know a book, you get the extra add-on adjunct to an ISBN. So you get your EAN, which is your 13 digit, and then you get an extra 5 digits after. That 5 digits after denotes the usually the price, except for Japanese material, because Japanese material does the addition on that. So when you start looking at those types of products, we've got to then go, we could have a single book that has gone through 8 printings. It's got the same leading barcode, but the extra 5 digits denotes the addition and the different price if the publisher has put price on there as well. So that causes you a problem at times, because the scanner, we've always educated all of our scanners, operators, you scan right to left. You don't scan left to right. You never scan left to right. Because if you scan left to right, you will get the first pass of the barcode before you get the end of it, and it will acknowledge that as a scan. We have to set our scanners up to read a short barcode and a long barcode, because the products are mixed. So you have to educate your users to scan right to left. So you always get the full barcode, not the shorter barcode. But again, as soon as you start scanning in a solution or in your workplace, you find these errors quickly, very quickly. You'll get misscans, you'll get things going, hold on, we seem to have sold 400 of this one product, but we didn't even have any of them in stock. What the hell? So the data will guide you to the fact that you can find misscans and so forth. We also have, I don't know whether you do, Don, whether you're just scanning EANs, if you see what I mean. But we have, I think we have to program our scanners to scan something like 12 different types of barcodes because of the products that we sell. So to read different formats, so UPC-A, UPC-E, and all those sort of things. We have to set the scanners up to do that. We don't just go, oh, it's one format.
No, we've gone through a process with the manufacturers of the scanners that we use, which are this kind of glove type scanner that sits on a glove.
Right.
At least that's the type of scanner we use for collating, because we don't want a collator continually picking up and putting down the scanner. A typical order might have 200 lines on it, so a collator isn't scanning something, then packing it, shipping it off, because it's a single item on the order. It's multiple lines, so a lot of picking up and putting down. And yeah, we've had to talk to the manufacturer quite a lot about configuring the scanners correctly to handle the different variety of barcodes that we come across. Absolutely,
yeah.
That process.
Yeah, I would emphasize this because there are different types of barcodes which have colliding barcode that can be meaningful or valid barcodes in different standards. So if you get a barcode scanner that supports all the different types, it's very important to disable those that you are not going to use.
Yeah, I agree. You can get misscans from that. Totally agree with that. It's kind of hard when you've got a really mixed environment. It's kind of hard to do that and find that out. Our config sheet, we've gone through many iterations of going, right, no, we don't want that barcode, but we want this one. We want this one with an adjunct, but not that one. Oh, we want that always with a 5 extra characters as opposed to 3. So because you just know your product. You're absolutely right. And that's the point of scanning the right direction as well. So if you scan left to right, you always get that short barcode, and that can really hurt you.
We seem to be segueing into choosing your barcode type.
This conversation was going to go that way, John.
It was always going to go that way. That's why it came up as a logical consequence. Yeah. So unless anyone's got anything they want to ask straight away, we'll just take a quick question if there is. But otherwise,
I've got one thing to add for what Dom said is, so if you are scanning multiples, does your user enter in a keypad 10 and then pick 10?
Yeah, we did think about making them scan once for each line, but you know what they do.
No, we took that feature away. They have to scan every line.
We make them interact because we, back with the keyboard, with the iPad, making them scan multiple times, we felt that they would just scan the same case. They'd take one case, they'd scan it 10 times, and they wouldn't scan 10 different ones.
That is possible. That is possible. But we researched it. No, we researched this and looked at it because the way we do our warehouse, I don't know how people do their warehousing, but very quickly, we offer the Amazon model, which is basically you can put any product on any shelf and anywhere, and the system will tell them where to go pick it. We don't have to collate our products together in the warehouse, so you can stick the same comic in 20 different bays. It doesn't matter. System tells them where to go, which aisles to go down, and we found from a picking point of view and an efficiency of putting stuff away, it's faster and more efficient. Let the machine tell them where to go. So in that scenario, they may go to a thing and it says you've got 25 to pick. It says go to the shelf, pick 5. If they scan the same product and say they've picked 5, the system will track what they've picked, and you'll find out if they're doing that very quickly. And then we just hold that audit log, and yeah, that person gets slapped. Stop doing that. Sorry, you've got to follow the rules of what we're doing. We understand sometimes that will take a little longer to scan, but that's how you get your accuracy. You get less mistakes. But if your warehouse, Dom, is very much, I've got 400 of these and they're always on the same bay and there's nothing else in that bay, you could get the system to be intelligent enough to give them the option if the bay they're at has only got that product.
Well,
you get really smart with the technology and make it work.
It's true, but also to be fair to our creators, occasionally our pick quantities will be 100 or 200, and you know you're just not going to ask a guy to scan 200 cases. Normally that would be well.
We do. We had a customer that ordered 460 odd comics, of which they ordered nearly 200 of the same comic. And that poor person was like, I was getting every comic. That's it. And then the system collates it and goes, you got all of that right.
I mean, there is a scenario where we would want to force our collators to scan each case. And this comes back to the traceability issues, where with our own products, we have a requirement to have an extra audit trail, an extra level of traceability. Now, the issue then becomes if you put mixed batches of a product onto a shelf, where the bulk comes from 2 different countries, then you do need to make the collator scan all of those cases in order to get the correct traceability information onto the invoice. So there are scenarios where you are quite right. You should be forcing your collator to do that when traceability for us is an issue. We would want collators to do that, yeah.
Just a little thing of a negative of scanning barcodes. We have some products that they stick the barcode on a silver-backed piece of you're putting lines on a reflective back plate. It's like, come on, it's just like scanner just won't scan the damn thing. So that causes you a problem. So in that instance, we sticker the product. We go to that level and sticker it with our own barcode because the barcode the manufacturer gives you doesn't work.
Well, we have these issues. One of our suppliers, Shipton Mill, managed to print
not to mention any names,
hundreds of thousands of flour sacks without changing the actual value in the default barcode. So though the human readable part of the barcode matched, when you actually scanned the barcode, it came out as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
On multiple products. Oh yes.
But if we come what type of barcode, I mean, our requirement is to have a variable element available to us on the barcode so that we can encode within that barcode the best before date, manufacturer's lot number, and country of origin. And in order to do that, we settled on the QR code rather than something like a GS1128. And the reason we did that was A, for recognition, because our collators will recognize that a QR code is different from standard barcode. So it is easier for them to identify what they should be scanning. They're also smaller, take up less room on our labels than a GS1128 would, and they're free.
Yep.
So
how do you deal with a product that you're not able to sticker though, because it's rare?
Well, if it is one of our products, we will always find a way. But if it's a branded good, if it's someone else's products, we let them pick it. Just say picked by hand, you know, line picked manually. But we would report on that and then investigate what the problem is there. But sometimes,
we've got some products that we do that we can't sticker it, because if we sticker it, the collector won't buy it. Just putting a sticker on it, that's it, it's tarnished. They won't touch it.
We sell single candles. You're not going to be able to put a sticker on a single candle. You know, you just have to have a little bit of give in the system.
I sell badges, mate. Trust me. You try to put a barcode on a badge that's that big. Good luck. So we do bins. We get around it with bins in the warehouse. So we still scan it, but we put the items in a bin and we scan the bin. So then it comes down to stock control. It really does come down to stock control, making sure that your warehouse is organized properly. So in those areas, we will put them in a bin. If it's a rare comic or something like that, it's in a long box. So then we'll put a sleeve in there with the long box with the barcode at the top of that, and just hope it's in exactly the right place and someone's not moved it, because you're not scanning the item, then you're scanning the location and going, I know that's there, I will pick it.
Well,
in those scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking of in a scenario where a product comes in without a barcode, but the supplier is a small supplier, they haven't generated a barcode for it. We would sticker the picking location with a barcode, but we just felt that what would that tell you? That wouldn't tell you anything about what's being picked. It just tells you that someone scanned something on a shelf edge label, and we swerved away from that.
Okay, so when you scan an item, it tells them to go to a location to scan it, and then they scan the item off that bay, yeah? Or they just scan the item, that's it?
They scan the item, yeah.
So what we do is we scan the bay, the item, the bay, and that's the trigger. So the bay tells me the person's in the right place. It's on the manifest, they're standing in the right place to scan the item. By scanning the bay again, that shows we've got a correct item scanned and they don't have to touch the keyboard. So we scan bay, item, bay, and that just instantly just goes one off that bay, and I know the bay they scanned it from. Now I can collate every bay they've picked and where they picked it from. So if they go to a different bay that has the same product, it'll let them pick it because it was on the manifest, but it'll throw an error and say you went the wrong way down the warehouse. You went down the wrong aisle. So we track them to that level, so you know they're picking the right way.
We had thought about picking up the latitude and longitude of the iPad when an item was
not accurate enough. Not accurate enough. No. Not when you've got 1,000 items on a bay in that much space, you're just never going to get it. So we scan the bay, then the items in the bay, and that's true. So they don't have to touch a start scan, item, end scan. They start the pick process, and it's just 3 scans per item, 3 scans per item, 3 scans per item. They just move along, pick them. That's it.
And we think about RFID and all of that, but one of the issues with those tags is that they do specifically say that you shouldn't scan multiple RFID tags on a pallet in one hit. So kind of as a final check as whether we got some of the product correctly onto a pallet to scan the whole pallet in one hit was specifically advised against, which is again why we went down the QR code route.
Honza, if you have any experiences that relate to these that Gary and Don are talking about?
I was also reading what Ian wrote in the chat about putting or not putting barcodes on small items. I think it's always a matter of the case and what is the stronger reason, whether there is a strong reason to use barcode for everything or whether there is a strong reason to avoid it on specific things. And one great example is bread. You don't put barcode stickers on bread, right? Directly. But if there is a strong reason to use barcodes for everything, you can always put the bread in a bag and put the barcode on the back. So it's always about what is the case and what is the strong reason. In terms of RFID, I think the most important two aspects of RFID are one is the speed of scanning. You can scan 2,000, 5,000 RFID tags in a second. You cannot do that with barcodes. So it's a huge time saver. But the second thing is because of the physics, it's never guaranteed, and it's never going to be guaranteed to be 100% accurate. You can get extremely close to 100%, but you always have to count with the reading to potentially failing. So unlike barcode scanning, RFID can save a lot of time, but you have to account for less than 100% reliability, especially because signal interference and things like that. So and there are cases where the interference is quite important. One case which is great example, I have a customer who deals with like audio equipment, which is a lot of wires and metal, and he tried to use RFID and couldn't find a reliable way how to put an RFID tag on a like
Really copper, yeah. Really
wire loop full of metal. So there are things where barcodes are better because of the reliability or accuracy. And in terms of scanning different surfaces, again, it's also a matter of using the right scanner. There are scanners which are able to scan barcodes which are curved, like on a bottles or not flat surface. There are scanners which can scan even from a reflective surface. I have even seen infrared scanner which was avoiding the direct light, and instead of using its own light source for scanning itself. So there are different technologies available, and again, it's about picking the right technology for your specific case, and it's quite important to put time and effort into the analysis phase and picking the right equipment, because then you can save a huge amount of time dealing with errors and redesigning your solution.
That's great. Ian had a comment. He had a raised hand just a moment ago. Thanks, Honza.
Yeah, coming back to the RFID, I mean, I've heard about these, but how are you actually individually programming that label to identify if you're putting an RFID on a bag? How's that bag different than another bag if you've got 10 blue bags?
Okay, so with RFID, RFID tags are rewritable. Just like you can print barcodes on a sticker, you can also encode the RFID tag in the sticker with whatever data you want. So you can make each sticker a unique ID, and then you can easily identify it.
But they can't be cheap.
Well, they're become much cheaper than it was decades ago. Right now, the cheapest paper tags can be around like 3 cents each.
Yeah, but if you're producing your own QR code onto a piece of paper, surely that's the cheapest method that you could ever do.
Well, QR code is on a piece of paper is always cheaper than the RFID tag, but it depends on what is the threshold. If you are placing the ticket or the tag on an item that's $10 or more, then you don't really care about 3 cents.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but then it comes down to, like you say, it depends on the scenario that you're putting it into and people's perspective on things and their lack of knowledge. We've got a scenario at the moment where somebody's trying to change from a barcode system because it's failing to an RFID system. Well, hold on, you can't even get the phones to work properly in the corridors that you're working in. Surely you've got a frequency, an EMC issue. So if you've got an EMC issue with tablets and phones, surely you would then have an issue with an RFID tag. I'm only guessing. I mean, how susceptible? How susceptible?
That's all physics. There are cases where barcodes are more reliable. There are cases when RFID is more reliable. For instance, if you have a dirty environment, your barcodes become unreadable very fast, and that may be a case for RFID because it's not about visual, it's about radio frequency. But if you get the environment with a lot of radio interference, barcodes may be better for you.
On an RFID, is it waterproof?
Yep. Obviously, waterproof tags are more expensive. Actually, today, the tag itself is the cheapest part of the. I mean, the chip and the antenna is the cheapest part of the tag. The most expensive part is the casing. So if it's a paper label, it's the cheapest option. But the casing can be a little piece of plastic, and then it's waterproof.
So you can you've got a linen jacket, and you actually want to get that back to the person that it was issued to because of infection control. Can you basically genuinely sew that into a jacket and then wash that?
Yes, there are actually tags which are specifically made for clothes. They survive high temperatures in the laundry laundry wash machine. So you get they survive over 100 degrees and they are waterproof. So the RFID chip itself, it's a general principle that they become very cheap. The newest technology can even basically create the chips by printing them, which is amazing. They can simply print the antenna on a surface of the casing material, and it's a working chip. It's amazing where the technology got. So and then the casing itself dictates how they can be used. For instance, if you want to use the tag on a metal surface, you get a tag which has a casing with at least, I think, 2 millimeters of distance between the metal surface and the tag, and then the interference gets low enough to make the tag readable.
Have you got any details or any links on that and the costings of those?
Yes, if you go to our website, I will share the link here. We have articles about RFID, and you can just look for it. If you let me briefly share my screen. Julie, you may have to allow me to share my screen.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I think I haven't. We haven't.
Oh, we've not done that. Give me a second.
Sorry, I can do it.
You got it, yeah?
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay. So on our website, 2foryousoftware.com, if you go to news here, and just in this tag, you can there should be RFID, or you can just search for RFID. You will find a lot of articles which are about RFID. This, for instance, is dedicated to using RFID on metal, for instance.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's interesting. That's thanks for that, because that's additional to what I was interested in, which is the QR codes. I'm trying to. We've got a problem that we actually use barcodes, and it's just the whole thing. I can't go into detail because it's too confidential. But basically, the barcodes are being read, and you can actually get a situation where somehow the barcode is giving another barcode number.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you scan a Snickers bar, and it's giving you a Mars bar.
Yeah. This can happen specifically when you have multiple formats enabled on the scanner, and the same barcode can have a valid different meaning in different format. That's one case. The other case was I mentioned the scanning in FileMaker Go, which the person I talked to specifically mentioned that occasionally it gives a wrong result without giving you an error. So the choice of the barcode format is the answer to this. So if you choose the right barcode format that contains some kind of error checking, like checksum or something like that, at least that at least gives you the option to verify that you have scanned the right code.
But that's where, by using a QR code, you've got more. You can put more information in there to do more checksums.
Yes, QR code, any 2D code, in fact, not just QR code, but any 2D code can contain a lot more data, and every 2D code format includes a mechanism called self-correction coding, which means that if you only successfully read a certain percentage of the data, you can calculate the rest. So, specifically in QR codes, you can specify, I believe, choose from 5 different levels of error correction. And if you choose the highest level, then it's sufficient to read 50% of the QR code to successfully read it.
I mean, are any of these systems 100%, or basically there is always a percentage of error on any of these systems?
Well, I'm not sure about all formats, but all the 2D barcode that I learned, which I implemented in my barcode generator, all of them are guaranteed to either fail or give you the right result. So if you cannot confuse one QR code for another one successfully. It's
right. You just said generator, and as Jules will tell you, I've been trying to get my application going for years now, but I might have already have used. Was your bit of software free to start off with?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I can show my screen shortly again.
Yeah, please do, Honza.
And let's look for sorry.
Yeah, and why Honza finds that, if you want more accuracy, 2D barcodes will give you that, because you can create the string that you like. So you can put all your error checking in the data, so you can control that data that you're scanning. So therefore, you could create a hash of something, and within that hash, you could have sections of the data that you go,
Yeah.
if I see the third part of the scan is matching the fourth part of the scan, which is matching the first part of the scan, I know I've got a good scan. Therefore, you can't scan bits of a file. So the 2D barcode gives you so much data in there. You can do pretty much what you'd like to check it. You would have to build that algorithm yourself. You could even pull the UUID from FileMaker straight into the barcode if you want it and give it a unique barcode for the one product. You can go down to that level of data if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the barcode generator. The first one that I created generates the barcodes as PDF, and it's all based on custom functions. So everything is just here. So you just take the custom functions from this file, paste them to your solution, and you get full barcode generating capability that works on FileMaker Pro, FileMaker Server, FileMaker Go, everywhere.
Right, but how do you earn your money? Because I'm pretty sure I've used this when I first was looking into this, and I fell in love with it. But was there a price point on it, or how did you earn your money?
No, the cost is your email address. So you just download it, and after you when you click on this unlock full access, you just put in your email address to subscribe to our mailing list, and then you it unlocks the full access to the solution.
Honza, can you put a link to that in the chat?
Sure.
A lot of people would be interested in that.
But basically, Honza's a very nice man. Does this for free.
I'm sure I started using this after at Uxbridge when we were messing around with it there. I'm sure it was introduced there.
And by the way, this other link is for PNG version. So if you run on Windows and you have issues displaying PDF in FileMaker, which on Windows is not fully supported, then you can generate the barcodes as PNG. It's just a little bit slower.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks for that.
And by the way, actually to create this, I had to study each of these barcode formats in detail. So I have put some comments there. If you open this, there are some links to resources.
Are you telling me that you're able to read that visually through your glasses? What that is?
Well, specifically for QR code, it would tell it would take me a long time to read that visually. there is a high math behind it, but some of the easy ones maybe.
Well, coming back to an actual
I'm just kidding,
barcode.
but it's also a good source of information about those formats. So you just click on this eye, and you can read some basic details about the format. In some cases, I also put in some advice like what that format is good for. Nice thing, for instance, about code 128 is that the barcode becomes very huge if you encode text into it, but it's very efficient for numeric digits. So encoding numbers with code 128 is very efficient in terms of space.
And just coming back to like the one to the right where you've got the UPCA-A barcode as an example, if you had a faulty laser printer because they can't be bothered to clean the cylinder, it will add a couple of extra lines down that barcode. Will that either corrupt the barcode, or could it indeed then give you a different number?
Well, that's a good question, and the answer differs depending on the barcode type.
Right.
Some of the barcode types are using let me use some better example. So some of the barcode types are using just a combination of two fixed width of bars, which is more accurate. Some of them are more dense because they use like 4 different widths of bars and spaces, and the more dense it is, the bigger chance there is for error. But in those some of the more dense codes, there is also a mechanism that prevents errors by using some of the space for making some combinations invalid, actually. So it's not an easy answer. The better way to look at it is always try to make sure that whatever device you print the barcode on has the width of the tiniest line, which is called a unit or module, in the barcode terminology. The width of that is the integer multiplies of the single point or single pixel on that device. So for instance, if you have 144 dpi printer, make sure that the width of the single unit is multiply of 144th of an inch, and then the printing will be very sharp and error prone.
Right. So just again, I'm trying not to give you too much information, but a commercial printer prints the barcodes. And he gets a job, or she gets a job of 750,000 barcodes, and they're just sequential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even on a yearly basis, they only change the front bit of the barcode on a yearly basis to say, right, this is 2021, this is 2022, blah blah blah. However, that example you've got there as the barcode, you know, we've got them like that as well, so you get the nice number underneath. So as a human being, you know that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Excuse the one where somebody else was talking about somebody had programmed the barcode incorrectly completely, so it's giving you the same number all of the time. But our system would quite easily take that as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So that is that's a bar of chocolate. Then you scan, so the next sequential one should be a number up from that, but it will then scan that as something completely different. No logic to it at all in terms of, right, it's 10 numbers up, 10, 20 numbers back, whatever. But literally, so that bar of chocolate's gone out, it's pure chocolate and won't have any nuts in it. Whereas the next one, because it's got the number completely wrong, it's supposed to go out as a bar of chocolate, but it's actually got nuts in. So that would kill somebody because that they shouldn't have eaten the nuts. Have you ever come across a situation like that? Is that the scanner, or is it the software that's actually changing it when the scanner's scanned it and the operator believes that they've seen it put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0?
Okay, it depends. It may be on the barcode side, it may be on the scanner side. If, for instance, if you're scanning EAN codes, EAN code was that includes checksum, but it's a very simple checksum. It's and the barcode is very old, so it does not use any of the modern error checking, error correction technology. So the probability that it will be scanned as a different valid code is not zero. It can happen. On the other side, all the industrial barcode scanners are made specifically with EAN in mind, and they are very reliable scanning EANs. But if you get a cheap scanner which simply doesn't care about the CRC, the checksum, it can give you a wrong result. And some scanners can be configured to either verify or ignore the checksum. You always want to verify the checksum if you want reliability.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we're way beyond where we
Thank
should.
you. No, this is
That's
no,
very
brilliant.
good.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating discussion. I didn't want to interrupt it. I think it's just to let it roll on freely. See if we can get some stuff about. I mean, we're covering which barcode types quite nicely, I think. But let's see if we can get in some talk about scanners. Because you started talking about those Honza, saying we should get the right one. And I know Dom looked at loads of different scanners when he was working out which one to use. And I'm quite interested to see what he's got as compared to Gary, as compared to what you thought, Honza.
Yes,
Okay.
we've got a lot of scanners. We mentioned it before that you know, we actually use different scanners within the business for different things. So if we are giving a scanner to a collator, we will use a wearable bit of technology so that it is always to hand for the collator, because the collator is going to be scanning multiple items a minute, hopefully, and doesn't want to be putting something down, picking it up all the time. With our goods in guys who are scanning less frequently, a standard handheld scanner that you can hang off your wrist or whatever is fine. And with our packers who are scanning even less frequently than our goods in guys, we let them use the camera on the iPad. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. They can create a packing record directly from scanning a label on that we have attached to a bulk item from goods in, and that's how we want them to create that packing record. So we use different scanners for different operations within our business. And yes, we did. We went through a lot of scanners. We went through the sleds that you can put an iPhone into. We went through things that you could attach to your iPads, the standard socket mobile scanners. And in the end, we've ended up using a couple of different types for different tasks.
How about you, Gary? What do you use? You use one type or many types?
We've got similar to our main one that we use is, I'm just going to share my screen because it's easier just to share and show, because I think that's the best way to go. Providing I can find the right bloody screen. Here we go. So we use socket scanners, the S740s. They're really good. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So we use the S740s. They're 1 and 2. If you only have 1D scanners and not 2D scanners, there's a cheaper version of that, but I'd recommend you splash out for slight extra money, and then you'll be able to scan everything going forward. We use these. We are scanning probably close to 50,000 products a day through these. We've got multiple iPads attached to that. A single scanner will hold a charge for pretty much the day at full day use. That's the thing I would say about mobile scanners. Do bear in mind, you need to look at your reliability of your speed of scanning, your longevity of scanning. If you've got a shift that lasts 18 hours, you don't want to then go be docking that for 3 hours to recharge it. So if you are at that level, look at the specs, look at its scan rate, look at those sort of things, and then work out the best scanner for you. I totally support what Hans was saying about the fact that if you can configure your scanners to use checksum, use that, you'll get more reliable scanners. And the stupid thing, if you get more reliable scans, that's less scans you do, therefore it won't run out as quick. So it all adds up. You really do need to analyze your scanners and pick the right ones. So we run these. If we're talking a handheld scanner, we do the same thing as you, Dom. Our tills, for example, we've got a third-party company that do our tills, and we invariably go with Zebra's LS28 2208s. These are the most robust scanner we've ever had. I mean, this thing is bulletproof. One, you can whack someone around the head with it and it won't break. Not that I condone that. But the point is, you can drop these things. They're pretty robust. They very rarely break. They will break. They're not a heavy duty. They're cheap. As you can see here, you got one with kits with a stand. They've also got a thing in the stand so you can get that will auto pulse them, so you can then just wave things under them. Little tip with the stand is at less than a foot high, so you've got a big box, it won't go under it, you still need to take it out the arm. So these are really good. these are absolutely, I've never had a problem with anything with scanning these. These are 1D versions of these, and that's what most of our products are. We're not scanning QR codes really as much, because suppliers stick with their products and that's it. But they are fast, they're reliable. And the thing is the reason why I looked at these scanners, where did I go? I was in Tesco's years ago. They had their massive big scanner that didn't work. And what they do, they pick one of these up that's attached to the thing and scan that when it doesn't scan. They got like a £5,000 multi-directional scanner, and when it doesn't scan, they pick one of them up. So, and I just thought, well, if they're using that as a backup scanner to scan everything, that's got to be the way to go. So I spotted that about 12 years ago, and that's why we bought these. I agree with what Dom's saying. The wearable thing from Socket is, we looked at this. We did look at this. And at the moment, we're on the tipping point of whether it's useful enough for us to have that freedom with their hands and so forth to speed up the pick. We have looked at it. We're on the cusp at the moment, whether to go for a handheld glove or not. We've got our scanners on a pull cord on your belt. That's there. So literally pull it, scan it, let go. And they're off because it just retracts straight to their belt again. And so we've got all those sort of things in play. So these socket scanners come with robust, you can get robust cases for them. So they get like hard rubberized cases around them. And then we attach that on a belt clip. So they can literally pull it straight away, scan the item, let go of it, and then they can pack, pick, move. They've done their job. The iPad also, so we have iPads. I'd love if Apple please release an iPad mini, an up-to-date workable one, because that form factor would be great. Because the iPad mini would fit on your arm, most people's arms. So now I can have completely armed. I don't have to worry about the iPad. So our iPads will around people's necks. So, but they never look at the iPad unless it errors. So it'll bleep if it errors. So they put the iPad in scan mode and they go down the aisle. They glance at it, but the iPad's got a big thing saying go to bay, whatever. And it's like a big bay sticker that fills the iPad. So they know where to go, and then they scan the products. Mainly the scanners, they're the two we mainly use. But we've not gone to the glove or anything like that yet. But that's something we would look at in the future, I'm sure.
Honza, was it you who mentioned to me custom sleds?
Yeah.
Engage you.
Okay, so let me again share my screen. And I'll tell you about our journey with barcode scanning that began 20 years ago. Originally, there were a lot of different barcode scanners available for serial ports. And when USB became the standard, many vendors started making USB scanners, and either cable connected or with its own proprietary base station and wireless connection to that base station. So that's what we started with on a Mac, where we actually needed to make it work with FileMaker. So we used a barcode scanner that acts as a like HID device, so it simulates a keyboard entry. That's something all of you have experienced at least a little bit with, probably. And with a desktop computer, it's quite a reliable thing, although one disadvantage with a keyboard simulation is that when you switch your keyboard to a different language, it starts giving you complete nonsense in your fields. And also you have to work around all those things like user escaping the field, clicking in a wrong field, things like that. So that's the disadvantage of keyboard simulation in general. When we needed a mobile solution, when we started organizing teacher summits in Prague, I think it was 12 years ago, we were looking for a way how to scan barcodes of tickets of people coming in a quick way. And because we all use Macs and iPads and iOS, and FileMaker Go only ran on iOS, we are looking for device that would be compatible with iOS. And at that time, there were not many choices. And one of them at that time promoted by Agnes Riley, Zero Blue, was ScanFop. It was quite affordable. So that was the first one we tried. The biggest disadvantage of this barcode scanner was that it very quickly went to sleep mode when, for instance, we were waiting for the next attendee to come, and I think after 3 minutes it went to sleep mode. After which it disconnected from the iPad, and it was very difficult to quickly reconnect it back. So we also tried a little bit more expensive one from Quamtech KDC. It's also like a small factor, like this size. And our experience with this compared to the ScanFob was that it was very reliable in reconnecting back to the iPad. It also they also worked out a way to show or hide the software keyboard on the iPad by just pressing a button on the scanner. So for keyboard simulation, it's kind of usable workaround. I have just recently learned that the way that this is done is that iOS supports the eject key on a wireless keyboard as a way to show and hide the software keyboard. So basically, sending the code key code of the eject key for the Bluetooth keyboard is the trick that shows and hides the software keyboard on iPad. And not all barcode vendors do support this somehow. So this is back maybe 10 years ago. And then we got in touch with a customer who was actually looking for a way to implement this device. That's a SLED barcode scanner from Infinite Peripherals, where you basically it's a case for iPhone where you put iPhone inside. It connects to the iPhone through the hardware connector, so it's directly connected to the device. But the disadvantage of this is it does not work at least by default as a keyboard simulator. So we would have to implement it through an SDK, and the only way to do it in FileMaker would be to use the iOS app SDK. And actually, instead of using FileMaker Go, which does not let us use plugins, we had to create a plugin which can be used together with iOS app SDK to build a native app that includes the FileMaker engine and the plugin in order to make it work with the scanner. But the biggest advantage of this is the reliability, because instead of having to rely on a field and the keyboard simulation, we could do it in a way that you press a button on the scanner, physical button on the scanner, to scan the barcode. It uses the laser scanner to scan the barcode, and as a response, it triggers a script in your solution, and the script gets the barcode as a parameter. So no interference with the user interface, no issues with interfering with the keyboard. The software keyboard works as expected because there is no additional keyboard connected to the device, and you just scan a barcode and that calls a script. So this was the first one we implemented in a plugin, and since then people were coming asking for support for different barcode scanners. So in the end, we added the support for Zebra scanners, which we found far the most reliable scanners on the market that we ever tried. It's partially because Zebra was within the last decade acquiring the biggest barcode and auto ID companies. So they bought Symbol, they bought other companies which were big players in the barcode market. So right now Zebra is, I believe, #1 player in the barcode scanning market. And this specific article here, including a video, shows in detail I'll share the link right here in the chat. How actually to implement barcode scanning with these barcode scanners into FileMaker solution. And the code is as simple as this. So you just have a script that is that connects to the scanner and tells it which your script here it is the mark item as scanned is called for unscanned barcode. And an extra benefit is that because we integrate with the barcode scanner through an SDK, through their internal protocol, we can have access to other features of the scanner. For instance, the barcode, the Zebra scanners typically have some RGB LEDs, so we can tell the scanner now turn on the LED and in green color or red color. We can also make it beep in different ways. So from FileMaker code, based on the barcode that we scan, we can tell the scanner to provide the user with a visible, audible, and even haptic feedback. So the user doesn't even have to look at the screen of the device to know whether it was a successful scan or failed scan or whatever. So for the most robust solution, I would definitely recommend Zebra as a vendor, and integrating the reader with the app through the plugin, because you simply get the highest reliability possible.
Dom, any feedback on your side?
Well, no, I mean, the glove scanners we use, I think they use a Zebra scanning engine, even though they come from China. We tried all sorts of different things. The sleds, iPhones in the sleds, sleds that you can attach to iPads, but nothing worked quite as well in terms of allowing a user to pick up a lot of cases in a short time as the wearable technology. The problem with the wearable technology is you have to wear it. And on a hot day, it can become quite sweaty. Also, the buttons that are used to trigger the scanner can wear out quite quickly and can give you misscanned or can make you lose focus if you're not careful. However, having said that, the gloves that the scanner is attached to are more or less a disposable item and don't cost very much, but you would want to be replacing the gloves on a fairly regular basis, and you can slot the scanner into the back of the glove, as you know.
That's where I was going to go with Dom with that, is the fact that from a hygiene point of view, in a hot, sweaty warehouse, you don't want someone else's glove that they've been wearing for the last 4 hours. so it's a matter of just disconnecting the scanner from it and just basically take it off the shoe, basically, and then you have your own glove, and that's it, and you just put the scanner in and away you go. So we have looked at it, and we're on the fence still. We're not quite there yet. So.
Well, again, as I say, it's that thing about even if you have something that attracts onto your belt, you still have to reach and get it before you scan the next item. And actually, this is perhaps something Peter should talk about a little bit, because he uses that solution much more than I do. So, Peter, how do you feel about the gloves and the scanning?
I love the gloves. I mean, it's a very physical. So we're picking big things, not magazines. So it is a question of needing both hands at all times. And yeah, it is. We're picking things relatively quickly. It makes it very simple. So I'm keen to try one of these on my belt and see how it goes. But the hand scanners are just fantastic because it gives you both hands.
Do you have any links to the web of the vendor of the golf scanner, and do they have any SDK? Because if they do, then we could get the best of both worlds by adding support for this particular scanner to GoNectar.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the chat for you now. And what is more, they've been very approachable. You know, we've had a few issues with configuring the scanners, and they've come straight back to us to give us solutions, as you said, not configuring the scanner for redundant barcodes that you're never going to use, but making sure that you have the configuration in place for the barcodes that you are going to use. So they've been very reactive. They haven't just sold us a load of scanners and then gone, right, no, go away. They've actually been very responsive to whatever questions we've had and whatever problems we've had. And the gloves aren't leather, they're vegan, which is very important for our, our collator.
Yeah. I haven't mentioned one extra thing about the hardware, and that is the technology used for communication. Now, today, always make sure that the connection type for the wireless scanner is Bluetooth LE, because older scanners use Bluetooth 3 or even Bluetooth 2, which means that the scanner stays connected and communicating all the time that it's on, and it drains the battery very fast, while Bluetooth LE allows the scanner to reconnect to the device within a second or less than a second after being in a power saving mode for an hour. So with Bluetooth LE, you can have the scanner running all the day without using all the battery power, and you still have it reliably connected to your device. Another benefit of Bluetooth LE is if the device supports it, you can have one scanner paired to multiple different iPads or computers without having to repair it in a complicated way.
How does that work when you've got both iPads next to each other?
Well, if you allow it, so if it's allowed, the master machine, the computer kind of device, simply connects to the device programmatically. You don't have to go to system and pair it. You can just directly request the device to connect, and if the device allows it, you just connect. So it's only a matter of configuration, but you can configure the scanner in a way that when computer A connects to it, it just immediately works with computer A, and when computer B connects to it, it just disconnects from computer A and starts talking to computer B.
Okay, because we went down the other route of, yeah, we've got all our scanners labeled to the iPads, and so you pick that number scanner up, that number iPad, they're always linked. We don't entrust the user to do that. I agree. If you can programmatically do it, then that saves a lot of time. That's really useful.
And specifically, if for instance you use our plugin with the SDK, then it gives you the identification of the scanner. So it's flexible, up to you how you want this to work.
Right,
I'm just looking at what our scanners do, because I'm not sure ours are Bluetooth LE, so I might need to upgrade.
John, what are you using to protect your scanners?
Sorry, you?
What are you using to connect your scanners? Are you using Bluetooth LE?
Well, I don't think we are using Bluetooth LE, so I'm going to have a look at that. Yeah.
Mine aren't. The scanners I've recommended that we use are using version 2.1 Bluetooth. So that's really, they say a 9-hour charge will do 70,000 scans. So we've looked at the device going, that meets our requirement. So it doesn't really matter, it stays on because it meets our requirement. But if you do a lot of scans, I agree with you, Honza, that will be a problem.
Well, in a matter of Bluetooth LE, 9 hours is very low, small amount of time. Well, with Bluetooth LE, you can get 100 hours on a single charge.
Nice.
Wow.
I mean, we can configure the timeout with the scanners. You get a sheet with the scanners. You scan the various barcodes. Allows you to do some custom configuration. You can adjust the speed of transmission as well, and do some other custom configuration. We found that if we set the time out at about 15 minutes, then generally reconnecting to the scanner, reconnecting the scanner to the iPad isn't an issue, because if our collator isn't doing something within that 15 minutes time span, well, my goodness.
Well, they've got a gap.
So what's going on?
Good point. Again, it depends on the situation. In our case, the reconnection was a key issue with the event management, because typically we got like 10 attendees coming at the same time. Then there was like 5-minute break, and then another attendee came in, and because the scanner disconnected, it caused delays. So Bluetooth LE is helpful in that the reconnect speed is really amazing. It's like 1/10 of a second.
And this comes back to what I was saying about using different types, allowing people to use different types of scanning in different environments. So if a packer is only having to scan once or twice a day, it's pointless having a Bluetooth scanner. It's much easier just to allow them to use the camera on the iPad. That's all they need to do. Whereas with goods in, scanning goods coming in, putting goods away, collating, it's a different scenario. Yeah, absolutely right.
One of the things we do, to add to that, Don, one of the things we wanted is just consistency. So we went the other way and just went, everyone gets the same. Doesn't matter whether you scan one barcode a day or you scan 10,000 a day. We know the technology is identical. I have less management of my FileMaker solution to know where there's a problem. If you have different pieces of hardware, this is where we went with different pieces of hardware. You just go, well, exactly as Honza said, iOS and the iPads sometimes operate differently depending on the hardware that you put with it. So we just let's rule that out and just go, we have one scanner that does everything, and that's it. The only time we do the handheld scanners is for mainly our desktop machines. They're USB connected. So that's for our Macs and those side of things. But we can attach the Bluetooth scanners to the Macs and do the same thing. It really, it depends what works in your environment. I think all of it, when you start this journey with barcodes, you will think today, right, we're going to put barcodes in. You've spoken to everyone talking today. And they go, right, in 3 months' time, I'll be there and it'll be working. You won't be. You'll be 3 years in and still tweaking it. You're constantly changing this thing. You're constantly updating it. And there's constantly new technology that comes out. So.
Well, no offense to Peter, but what I found is it's very important to pick one person who's very good at what they do and get them to test what you're doing, and one person who's rubbish at what they do. I'm not saying which one it is. Yeah?
I was just going to say, where is he on the scale? Is he at one end or the other end? I'm not entirely sure.
You learn more from the person who's rubbish, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's my job.
One of the things we did with scanning as well is that you're saying about the options for people. We have in our system, if something doesn't scan, if they know the product ID, they can type the product ID in. So we did this is the other benefit of barcodes, is the fact when you scan a barcode, you can track within FileMaker, is what we do, the input time. So if you've got a barcode, we can track every manually entered barcode, because we know the input time is so much slower than a barcode being scanned. So we track from the start of you scanning to the end of you scanning. So if it's less than, I don't know, 1/8 of a second, we know that was a scanned item. We know it was a scanned item. They physically scanned it.
Exactly. We every action a collator takes, whether it's pressing a button or scanning something again, scanning it again, we create a log file of that. And Peter loves looking through that stuff.
I do.
To see what the collators have been up to. It's true. Yeah.
But we do it on the field. What we're saying, we do it on entry trigger in the field of the barcode to know the speed that was entered, to know whether it was scanned or entered.
Well, that is another issue. Is that I think it was mentioned about losing focus when you've got an iPad, you're scanning into a field. At the moment, we scan against the line rather than having a field at the header record, and you're always scanning into that field. We scan into a field against each line. And we do find problems with that losing focus, and collators getting frustrated because they have to put their finger back into the field or reset the scanning to bring the focus back to the field into which we want them to scan. and that can cause some frustration with the collators.
So you scan against an actual item line, do you?
We do. And
so we scan to a global. We scan to a global. Let the script deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, I am thinking about going that way. We use the carriage return at the end of the data stream to exit the field and trigger a script, which will then process the.
Yeah, that's normal. That's normal. I don't see a problem. You need something to tell it to do something, but that's how we do with the global. So you do on carriage return. To then fire a script to then now run the script to set the globals onto the records, because you know what you were scanning against. We normally do it via globals, not on the records.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a different approach that I've been considering in order to try and address that issue. Yeah.
The advantage of doing it through a global is the fact you will never lock the record. So if someone's keying in, they're in that record, they will lock it while they're entering. They've locked that record. Now, if we've got multiple people scanning against that same line, which we have to do it to a global, because then when it commits it instantly. So you don't ever lock the record in FileMaker.
But sometimes we want to present some contextual information that relates to the line that the collator is on. So, for example, if they go to a picking location and there is no stop there, if they are on that line, we will present them with the record that shows them what is up in the racking with the shortest best before date on the header record, and they can press a button and ask for that to come down automatically. So
yeah,
putting them into the context of a line on an order does have some advantages.
So if the vendor of the wearable scanner does provide an SDK, would you be interested in us adding that to the plugin so that you can just get rid of the field tricks and just have a script running for each barcode scanned? Sorry,
run that by me again.
Okay, if the vendor of the wearable barcode scanner that you're using, if they do provide a suitable SDK and we can make it added to the plugin, so that instead of dealing with those keyboard tricks, you could actually have our plugin trigger your script for each barcode scan. Would you be interested in that?
I would be interested in anything that would help us improve productivity for our collators, because it is a very physical job and it's very difficult to get any gains in productivity when you're talking about putting heavy items on a pallet, as Peter has just referred to. So anything that would decrease the amount of time the collator has to spend faffing about, I would be very interested in.
Okay. Let me try to contact them and see if they can provide a suitable SDK, and I think that would be worth checking at least.
That's great, Honza. That's amazing, fantastic. We're technically into open discussion time. Having skipped past my item, I was going to ask. Well, I haven't got the demo ready anyway. But what I was going to do, I was going to ask Dom to demo what we did in situ to give you a vague flavour of it and the reasons we were doing it, which is using text to speech and the types of headset that were used and so forth, and the reasons for doing that. I did message him and he said he'd be up for it. If you are, Dom, if anyone's got any questions, raise your hand and we'll fit those in as well.
I just wanted to quickly say thank you to everybody. It's been absolutely amazing. The information, brilliant.
Good.
I'm not going. I just wanted to let you know that it's fantastic.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, very difficult to demo you, I'm afraid.
Oh, yeah, I know it's going to be difficult to demo because it's on an iPad, so it's going to be a matter of doing. So whilst Dom's getting his act together, basically the situation was to give some audible feedback to people who are scanning, giving them feedback about whether they picked the right thing, where they need to go next, and that needs to be a sort of variable set of speech. And the length of the text that is spoken needs to be variable because something might be right next to the thing you've just picked, or it might be down and round a corner. There's probably more than that. Are you ready, Tom, for whatever you can?
Well, no, I don't think I can demo it. Peter's desperately trying to get an order assigned to himself on the iPad, so we can show you that. But the key to the text-to-speech was, as you said, what we wanted to do was to minimize the user's interaction with an iPad. Generally speaking, the iPads are attached to an electric pallet truck, and we would want the collator to have to come back to that pallet truck as infrequently as possible. So the more time they spend scanning stuff, picking it up off the shelf, the better. The more time they spend wandering back to the pallet truck to look at the iPad to see what they've got to pick next, it just takes time. So we were looking for a solution that would allow us to, in effect, liberate the collator as much as possible from the iPad. And working with you, we came up with the text-to-speech. Now, again, as you all have said, it is well known that you can read a lot quicker than you can hear. And one of the intolerances that the collators had to the text-to-speech solution was the length of time that it took to read out a product description. So if you are going to implement a text-to-speech solution, you need to think about how much information you have to give to the collator to allow them to identify the product that they want to pick. So we would not give a whole product code, for example. We'd only give the last 4 digits of the product code, and we would also give the product location. And if we have to, we would give the product description. But we would only, the other thing is to allow the user to interrupt that text-to-speech. So we send that to the collator in little, little. Sorry, Peter's just on my screen at the moment, so it's confusing me a bit. So we don't send the location, the product code, and the product description all in one hit to the JavaScript. We would break that down into components so that at any time, if the collator thinks they've identified the product, they can scan, and the act of scanning will then stop the text-to-speech running, so that they can hear what they've got to pick, they can think they identify it, they scan, that stops the text-to-speech running. And that was very important in what we did. Yeah.
Just to make it clear, the engine for creating text-to-speech is just a small piece of JavaScript in a web viewer.
Picking location B01B. Pick quantity as 9. Last 3 7 4 0. 12 by 72 72 highlighters.
Meet Margot. She's my friend.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolute marmite, the text-to-speech. Some collators love it. We use it in
and some collators are idiots. You know, what could you say?
Well, I have one more idea that we implemented in our office. In addition to text-to-speech, which we also use, if you have like modes to switch between, like now I'm scanning a part number, now I'm scanning a serial number, something like that. If it's not too many, you can have a special barcode for this and have them like printed on a piece of paper or second-hand glove, something, and just scanning those special codes, you can switch between those modes.
Yeah, and we also found that people were very sensitive to the voice that was being used. You know, some people preferred one voice, some preferred another. We also found that the latest iteration of the iOS on the iPads knocked out the user's ability to override the default selection that we were sending as part of the JavaScript for the voice. So we've had to work around that. And we also went to the trouble of calculating how close the user was to the next product that they were to pick. And if they were only a short distance to the next product, then we wouldn't read out the full product description. There's no point. If the next product is literally next to you, we will just give you the last 4 digits of the product code and the picking location. If you've got to walk halfway across the warehouse, we will give you the full product description, the pack size, and the picking location. But if you're right next to it, there's no point. And that just helped, I think, with the users accepting being, in effect, told what to do. But the whole point was to reduce the amount of time that the users were going back to the iPad to see what to pick next, and to liberate them, as it were, from the iPad, and allow them to continue picking as much as possible before they went back to the palette and put the items on the palette. And it works very well for that.
I think it's worth mentioning the bone conducting headsets and the need for that as well, and the reasons behind that.
Yeah, I mean, because we're in a warehouse, we have health and safety considerations, so we can't allow our collators to wear headphones that cover the ears, because they can't hear the pallet trucks, they can't hear the warning beeps and such. But the bone conducting headsets that they use work very well with the text-to-speech.
And we can't hear the music that's playing in the warehouse either, so you've got to be able to hear that. And Margot's just chipping in over the top. It's lovely.
But also, it was important to mix up what the collators were being told. So you don't just say, yes, that's an act. You have a list of 5 or 6 phrases that you would use to tell the collator that they've picked the right thing. And similarly, you'd have 5 or 6 phrases to use to tell the collator they've picked the wrong thing. And it's important to just chop it up a little bit and give them a little bit of variety in what they're hearing. Otherwise, they start to turn off. Now, because we record how many scans they've made, I did try to encourage our collators by saying, well, if you've scanned it incorrectly 3 times, and on the 4th time you scan it correctly, I will say to you, well done. Look, you see, you can do it. Now, I thought that was incredibly encouraging, but our collators found it to be incredibly patronising. And that had to be turned off really quickly. And also, you've got to be careful about punctuation, putting full stops in the right place to give the right intonation, so it sounds like a human voice and it doesn't just sound like something being read out. But it is potentially a very powerful thing, and it is odd that you have a text-to-speech function in FileMaker Pro, but that you don't have available to you in FMBug. And it's odd that we have to go around the houses to use a bit of JavaScript in order to do this.
And the speed of that is not a problem for you, Don, because I heard what was announced earlier, and I'm thinking, geez, tell me where to go. I've got I don't know, our warehouse is laid out in an array of about 8 characters, but it's very human readable. It's easy to find, which aisle, which bay, which shelf, and that's it. So did you find from your users that there was, as you say, it's Marmite, some people love it, some people hate it, but do you find the speed of it enough? Did it help enough? Or
well, you can also dicky about the speed of the voice as well.
Yeah.
It's more the time it takes to then do that JavaScript stuff and then read that back out. There's got to be a lead time on that.
That's exactly why you break it down into segments. You don't create the location, the product code, the pack size, and the product description. You don't send that all in one to the JavaScript. You will send the location, then you will send the last 4 digits of the product code, then you'll send that. And that means that at any point, the user can scan the item and interrupt that JavaScript and not run the rest of it.
Yeah,
because
that makes sense.
Right, if you force the user to listen to all of that before they can scan an item, it's a complete.
But we have the point, so we have, as a collator, and that's my function here really, that I use the thing. So if you're directed to, if you're going down our A to E aisles that have infinity products and they are more or less one product to one location, to one pallet location, then once you've heard the location, you're there. You don't care what Margot after that. You're there, and as soon as you pick it, she stops and moves on to the next thing. And in fact, if you're in a very dense area where you've got lots of products in the same place, and you're there, you've got your eye on your iPad, then as soon as it beeps, you can pick the next one. Because picking our herbs, they're all together. So you pick an oregano and then you pick a thyme. You just need to wait for it to beep and then you stop her talking at all. But generally speaking, you can stop her at any time, and it's great. No, if you had to wait for her, which is how it was when we first set it up, wasn't it? You had to wait for Margot to finish what she was saying, and it was hopeless because you'd be standing by the pallet waiting to put something on there. But the joy of it is, as you put something on a pallet, you've scanned it. As you put it on the pallet, Margot's telling you where you're going next. You know, it cuts out an awful lot of time.
Yeah, it took a lot of messing about to get that to work properly, so that people weren't wasting time standing there waiting for that text-to-speech to finish before they went on to the next thing. And the way we ended up doing that was using the open URL command with option 1 enabled, which allows you to stop any running scripts and then run the script you want to run. And that was the key to that being successful.
And I take it upon you're doing the scan, that carriage return fires the next script which stops it. So that's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The first thing it does is to call the open URL command, which in itself calls the script to process the scanned input, but with the option 1 enabled, which stops the script that's currently running from continuing. But it does work best if you come up with shortened product descriptions. Yeah, if you can calculate a shorter product description, so you're not wasting people's time, it works best in that way. And I've come up with a very sophisticated way of doing that, haven't I?
Very sophisticated it was, and it works very well. Yeah.
Peter loves hyphens, so every product description has a hyphen. I just take everything to the left of the hyphen, and I don't worry about anything to the right of it. And that's what we read out to our collators.
Which is great. So if you're encouraged, if you're going to pick some gluten-free oats, you're picking gluten. And if you're going to pick some stomach ease tea, you're picking stomach. Brilliant.
But it
doesn't matter because you're already in the right place. It doesn't really matter what, you know. We can make it a lot neater by smartening up and shortening product descriptions. But to be honest, the way it goes is you're going to this location, you're picking the thing with a code that ends with these 3 digits. By the time it gets to the product description, you've probably picked it anyway. So,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting how little information you need to actually accurately identify the product you should be picking. And that's the trick to it. Yeah.
I think this is a good moment to say that we're having a little informal in-person FMBug next month. And Dom and Peter have very kindly offered to host it. Watch their faces drop now.
Bring your own
at their warehouse. So if anyone wants to see this stuff in action and have a bit of a sort of hands-on session, I think it's scheduled for the 5th of February at the moment. But I will confirm the date.
Right.
If anyone is particularly interested and wants to get hands-on, come to that.
I absolutely would do. I just need to work out whether I get down to see you guys. So I would absolutely love to come down and see what you're doing.
Well,
so I think it'd be great.
No, we'll accommodate you. Love you to come down. No, seriously, absolutely.
No, I said it before. I'd want to see what you're doing because I think there's so much. That's the thing with once you get into doing barcodes and warehousing and that sort of stuff. There's so much crossover, and there's so much stuff that every individual probably has got a solution that's unique to them, they think. And it's not until you all get together and you discuss these things as a collective, you realize actually there's a lot of people doing exactly the same thing over and over again. And the stuff that Honza's put out is just revolutionary. You know, like you were saying about the first scanner you used, Honza, that was very similar to the ones I use. And I think I saw you at DevCon, and that's the reason why I bought it. So, so it's the fact that you see what other people are doing, and you're just going, okay, I'm going to go buy that because someone spent hours and hours of time doing this, and you take those benefits. So I wanted to just say, I know Ian just turned his camera off, but I know Ian had a question, I think. So sorry, Ian. I know people have been talking over you for a sec. I didn't know if you had a question or not. So.
No, it's not really a question. It's more, it's a comment, and I'm finding this really, really very interesting because a lot of the stuff Dom's been talking about is it's kind of a combination. There's a combination of technical stuff, which is not the usual FileMaker thing, but it's also the interaction of how people work with the system and the details that you were talking about what you're saying to people and that kind of stuff takes a lot of experimentation and time to get right. And that's something that people often don't think about when they're talking about developing a system. That last bit of how do we get people working really, really effectively with it? Because when we implement a system, people's behavior changes, and it kind of, you end up with this iterative thing around the system. So I just find it super interesting.
It was kind of odd for us because the system that we're running with is, well, it's rudimentary in the extreme, in that we know what we could do to make it really neat, and if we were trying to sell it to someone, we'd have to do that. But because we're working in our own little environment of the 70 of us here working, it's amazing how, I mean, it's still rough, isn't it? But we could make it a whole lot better. But it's amazing how well it works. As I was saying, you know, Dom's truncated the product descriptions by cutting off anything to the right of a hyphen. You know, that's rough. It still works. You know, that's the amazing thing about it. There's only a certain amount of, in our context, there's only a certain amount of things you need to know. You need to know the location, last 3 digits of the code. Anything else is icing on the cake, really. So certainly, if we were trying to roll this out to anyone else, we'd need to finesse it. But it's amazing how it works as it is.
But I think that ties in exactly with what Ian was just saying. I mean, you've designed that to work for yourselves in your situation. So you have considered how people are using it, and you've tailored it to how people are using it. And I think you're right, Ian. I think all too often people don't consider how it's going to affect the user and how it's going to change their behavior. So I'm finding it's fascinating as well.
I noticed that you referred to it as saying she tells us, or she told us. So that's kind of interesting in itself.
No one likes the male voices. No one.
No one wants to work with Daniel. Laura.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, I think this angle of view that Ian mentioned is quite important and very often forgotten or overlooked in the UX, specifically when dealing with processes which are extremely demanding for high efficiency. The difference between the user working smoothly and the user being stressed is very tiny, and so it's very important to watch those users and notice every small source of stress and remove it from the process.
Even about efficiency, a quick question. We've talked about single barcode scans. Has anyone done multi-barcode scans, whereby you've got a palette with 500 telephones on it? Each of the telephones has got its own barcode. You take one picture and the app recognizes 500 barcodes.
This is veering into your field, Ian. This is AI.
I think that might be a good question for Christian. Christian, do you have a specific customer who has done this? I know that your plugin can do it, right?
Yeah, the vision and the setbar functions can do multiple barcodes. Yeah, but 500.
I'm exaggerating. Like, so on a palette, you know.
Yeah, but you have to think about, we need all the barcodes. But for each line, you need 1-2 pixel wide. So
yeah, the resolution would be huge.
Maybe
if you're doing
200, 300 per barcode. So a normal picture with maybe 3,000, 4,000 pixels wide would just fit 10.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have got, you know, normal palette.
Yeah.
5 foot high. iPhone boxes aren't very big, or Samsung boxes aren't very big.
The idea would probably be you would do do something like a video. Like you would go over the barcodes and then look. So you would catch barcodes as they come into the picture. You would remove duplicates, of course, and
well, I have heard,
how about just weighing? How about just weigh the pallet?
I thought
they have to report. Yeah, that would be good. The problem they've got is they've got to report back to Samsung the actual device that was sold. So each one of them has its own unique identifier, right? Serial number tracking stuff. So Samsung shipped them, I don't know, 10,000 phones. Distributor says, I'll have 1,000 of those. They send two pallets out. They don't particularly want to go and scan 1,000.
What I would do with that, Ara, was I go to Samsung and say, you need to send me the manifest of every pallet, and I upload those dockets. If you got the pallet wrong, it's on your dime. It's your problem.
Yeah,
send me a text file with the pallet, and I'll upload it into FileMaker, and I'll track it from there.
At one DEF CON, I talked to a guy who actually tried a video, and he mentioned the problem with video is that you don't get every frame sharp enough. So,
well, at least you could have your app. You just take 10 pictures.
Yeah, but you cannot with the video you cannot make sure that it's not like you cannot avoid movement which would actually blur the barcode. So.
But could your video check to see if you know how many items are on there? You could potentially tell it to keep filming until you get all the part.
Well, an idea would be to just take pictures and we collect all the barcodes we can recognize.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to find ways around this particular problem. I mean, there are examples out there where you can take a picture of, I don't know, a bay, and it'll tell you how many boxes are in the bay. So at box level, AI kind of comes into it and says, yes, 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 there's 33 in there. But when you're looking at, and on each one of these, Gary mentioned, some of these Samsung boxes have got 4 or 5 barcodes on, different barcodes. They're not even, there's some are QR codes, some are 2D codes.
I think the problem with this is that most of the use cases that would benefit from this ability are actually good use cases for RFID. So, I would go with RFID in this case.
Samsung's got enough money to put RFIDs on every box. Come on.
I thought I'd throw that one in just in case. All right.
Yeah, they can put it.
RFID for exactly that scenario. We would build a pallet. Everything would have an RFID tag on it. But the information we saw was that you should not scan multiple RFIDs on one pallet at one go. You wouldn't get a reliable result.
No, you maybe wouldn't get a reliable result, and I agree with that. But that's the point of getting the result is maybe you scan it from 4 different angles, 4 different times, and collate the results of all of those to see if you get them.
To go back to what Gary said earlier,
the typical way to scan a pallet with RFID reliably is that you have it on a rotating
platform, so it rotates around as you do it. Yeah,
and then you get all the different angles.
That's the point. You've got to scan it correctly.
As Gary pointed out earlier, I suspect that Samsung probably has got a manifest and either an Excel file or a CSV file that has all the IDs of everything that was shipped on that pallet.
Apologies, my mistake. Samsung have shipped me 10,000 phones. I've stuck them in my warehouse. One of my distributors comes to me and says, I want 3,000 phones. So the guy in the warehouse goes and says, oh, that pallet looks pretty good. I'll have that one, I'll have that one, I'll have that one. I now need to say, those 3 have now left the building. Elvis has left the building.
Yeah,
I don't want to go and scan 3,000.
You book them in by SKU. You book them in by SKU, and when you book it out that bay, all the SKUs are collated.
What you could do then is
you do it by SKU, everything.
RFIDs on the pallets as opposed to the individual items, or as well as the individual items. If you've got an RFID on the pallet, you know what's on the pallet.
You're assuming it's not broken.
I think we've got to wait until we go to Battersea and we see the AR goggles from Apple, because surely all you do is put one of those.
You just look at it, blink.
Just look at it, yeah.
While you're watching Equalizer 3, and then it picks all of the barcodes up and whacks it at the file maker. Not a problem. Looking forward to it.
So you
Yeah,
don't
that
unpick
may be
the
a
pallet?
few years away.
I'm sure.
Do you unpick the pallet?
Yeah, because the pallet can be broken, right?
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
If the pallet breaks, you monitor it. You manage it as part of your warehousing process. You control your stock. I hate to say this, control your stock.
No, I don't like doing that. I would be out of a job if that worked.
You have more time to analyze the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay,
Cool.
but excellent. This has been a really good discussion. I've really enjoyed this meeting.
It's a great session. Well done.
We're
Yeah, very
now
good.
at 9 o'clock, technically virtual bar time, dead on 9 o'clock, amazingly.
I think
feel
that's
free
perfect,
to
so-
carry on. I'm very happy for us to carry on. I suspect Gary is as well.
Yeah, I'm going to stop the recording now. I've stopped my dinner time. I don't think I'm going to eat now, so that's fine. I'm going to stop the recording. I'll cut that out before it goes on YouTube. I just want to say thanks to everyone that's turned up. Great conversation,
Brilliant.
great topic, and we need to do more of these.
Yeah, thanks for everyone's input.
definitely.
Really appreciate it. Really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would really particularly like to thank Honza, Dom, and Gary for their discussions, their
You're welcome.
conversations. And thanks everyone else for coming and being part of it.